You know, it's funny. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs happen in places you'd least expect. Today, we're digging into one of those stories. It's all about one of the most basic vegetables on the planet, the onion, and this incredible quest to grow it better, smarter, and get this, with a whole lot less plastic.
So, right off the bat, what in the world do plastic sheets and onions have in common? I know, it sounds like the setup to a really bad joke, right? But the answer actually gets to the heart of a massive challenge that farmers are facing today. You see, for decades, that plastic has been both a hero and a villain out in the onion fields. It's created this huge farming problem that researchers have been working like crazy to solve. Okay, so to really get the solution, we first have to understand the problem itself. So let's peel back the layers on farming's plastic problem. Pun intended, of course. It all kicks off with a practice called mulching. Now, this is where farmers lay down these big sheets of plastic vinyl over their soil. Think of it like a protective blanket for the crops. It's a super common technique, especially for growing onions.
And this is where you really see the dilemma. I mean, on the one hand, this plastic mulch is great for the onions themselves. It warms up the soil, it keeps moisture in, all good things. But, and these are big buts, it creates a ton of plastic waste every single year. On top of that, you can't really use big machines for planting or harvesting because these plastic sheets are in the way. It's a classic catch-22.
So the obvious solution just seems so simple, right? Just get rid of the plastic. Well, that's easier said than done. That brings us to the no mulch challenge. Because the moment you take away that protective blanket, a whole new wave of problems shows up for the farmers. This comparison just lays it all out, plain and simple. Without that mulch, the soil gets way colder in the winter. A lot more water just evaporates. And weeds? Oh, weeds become an absolute nightmare to control. So yeah, you solve the plastic and the machinery problem, but you might just lose your entire crop in the process. For years, it really seemed like an impossible choice. Okay, so let's dive into this a little deeper. How could farmers possibly make no mulch work? If you ditch that plastic blanket, you've got to have something else to keep those onions safe and warm. And for the longest time, there just wasn't a good answer. But a couple of things changed recently. Two big things really gave researchers a new shot at this. First, winters are getting warmer because of climate change, which means the soil wasn't getting quite as frigid. And second, we've got new tech. These new lightweight fabric covers that can be put over the plants during the coldest parts of the year. So all of a sudden, no mulch farming started to look, well, possible. But there was still one more piece of the puzzle. They had to find the perfect onion for the job. And that leads us to the main event, the Great Onion Trial. Think of it like the Onion Olympics. Researchers in South Korea decided to put a bunch of different onion varieties to the test, all in a no-mulch environment, to see which ones were tough enough to thrive without that plastic blanket. And to find their champion, they focused on two really critical events. First up, marketable yield. Basically, how many good, sellable onions could each type of plant produce? And second, storability. How well did those onions actually hold up in storage without turning to mush? Because let's be honest, a giant harvest is pretty useless if it all rots before you can sell it. All right, so in our first event, yield, you can see some clear frontrunners emerge. Just look at the De Huang variety over on the left. It's cranking out almost 8,600 kilograms. Now, compare that to Chunju Jungo Huang on the right, which is struggling to even hit 7,000. For a farmer, that difference is, well, it's huge. That's your profit right there. But hey, remember, yield is only half the battle. Now look at the storage results. And keep in mind, a lower number is what you want here. The Bridger variety was an absolute superstar, losing only about 38% of its weight in storage. But look at poor Change Your Jungo Wang again, an 82% loss. That's staggering. It didn't produce much to begin with, and then most of that just rotted away. So, after crunching all the numbers from the trials, the researchers were finally ready to crown their champions. These are the onion varieties that really prove they have what it takes to make it in a no-mulch world. And here they are, the winner's circle. We've got Powerball, Daehuang, Honors, Pop, Big Bang, and Bridger. These six consistently delivered that 1-2 punch of high yield and fantastic storability, making them the absolute top picks for any farmer looking to finally ditch the plastic. But here's the part that really blew my mind. These champion onions didn't just survive in the tougher conditions. Some of them actually thrived. Let me show you a really stunning example. Okay, you have to see this number. This is just wow. For the Bridger variety, when they grew it without the plastic, they saw 42.1 percentage points less loss in storage compared to when they grew it with the plastic. Let me say that again. Taking the plastic away actually made the onion stronger and last longer. That is a total game changer. So this is obviously way more than just a cool science experiment. This research has a massive real-world payoff for farmers, for the environment, and, for our food supply. And this lays out the simple path from the lab to the real world. It all starts with one decision: choosing the right seed. That single choice leads to better harvests and onions that last longer. And that, in turn, directly boosts a farmer's income while making their entire operation more sustainable. And we're not just talking in hypotheticals here. There's a real number to back this up. The researchers figured out that just by switching to these top-performing varieties, a farmer could boost their income by over 292,000 Korean won for every 10 ea of land. And that's before you even factor in the money they save on plastic or the extra profit from long-term storage. That's real cash from one simple change. Ultimately, it just goes to show you how a seemingly small change, just picking the right seed, can lead to a truly massive impact. It's a perfect case study of how smart, targeted science can solve real-world problems. It's a win for the farmer's wallet, and it's a win for the planet. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If we can totally reinvent how we grow something as simple as an onion, what other everyday things in our lives are just one small smart change away from having a huge positive impact? Definitely something to think about.